for great adult children.
Awesome.
It's definitely in the community. And he did run for Senate 2 years ago, what?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. So he was...
Let's talk about the founding of the Distinguished Gentleman's Club.
Absolutely. So about 8 years ago.
You said you're a mother, so how many children?
I have 5 children.
Okay.
Where they started saying that I was their African American, and they got this from our president. You know, they were voted by.
So what were you doing when you were child? The first or the second time? Before the first time.
So I was in and out.
Good. Awesome. So that really is a great place to transition.
And who is sitting across from me or beside me is never going to sway that.
Listen, man. One, I'm not gonna cry on this episode.
Yeah.
I made it through all of these episodes. I think I've cried once in Congress. What are the things that you're most proud of accomplishing? You know, as a congressman and as whip.
Real Talk with Rajon.
Yo. Welcome back. It is me, your host, Rajon Lewis. Thank y'all so much for joining me. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you are here with me, and I appreciate that. My name is Rajon Lewis, and here on Real Talk Rajon, everything's debatable. So on any given week, we could be discussing anything from sports to music to politics. You name it, we'll discuss it. Now, for those who are new to Real Talk Rajon has a goal of shining a light on the great things and the great people that are right here in the Low Country doing amazing work. And today we have a very, very special guest, and she goes by the name of Miss Jazmyne McCrae of the Repeal the Heritage Act organization. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. So please introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, my name is Jazmyne McCrae. I'm a graduate student here at the University of South Carolina, and I'm also the vice president of an organization called Repeal the Heritage Act.
All right. So what got you into the work of working with Repeal the Heritage Act?
So it started with actually just being a student on my very own campus and learning about statues and building names that were protected by a state law that left it my university unable to rename or change anything on their public campus without the approval of 2/3 of a legislature. And it started with me actually looking at a building called J. Marion Sims at our women's quad, which is titled after a man who is a so-called scientist and father of gynecology who actually experimented on Black enslaved women without any anesthesia and really without any mercy. And I found it cruel and quite inhumane for USC to have a women's building, named after a man who did so much harm to women.
Wow.
And then I found out on top of that, Honoree Monteith, who was one of the first Black women to integrate our university in 1963, had to stay at J. Marion Sims, which added a subtle twist twist of the knife in a way, like just how cruel white supremacy really can be in nature, and making a building named after a man who has done so much harm to people of color, not just to women as well, but to enslaved Black children. And then having the gall to name a women's building after him, and then the further audacity to penalize a Black woman's experience at our university, which will already be tumultuous enough, at a building named after a man who would have done harm to her in a different age. Finding out there was legislation that prevented my university from doing anything about it angered me enough to want to find ways to start that process. So I started with just writing letters and talking to professors, and thought that really it was useless and wasn't going to get anywhere with just little old me. Then we see the spark of racial reckoning in the summer, and really this ignited flame, I think, under not just people of color and the Black community in South Carolina, but under people of power, and unfortunately who is a mainly white dominant group in South Carolina, start to awaken and see this racism in a new form, and understand that white supremacy is all around us in our physical surroundings. So I took advantage of that and started to talk to people. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I'm sorry.
So I took advantage of that and started to talk to people about how we could actually get this ball rolling and how we could actually start to repeal this law. And here we are now with close to 2,000 followers online and tens of thousands of signatures on our petitions to get this act repealed. And we have close to enough of our legislators to agree to this repeal to actually make it happen.
Wow. That's wow. I just want to start off by saying, like, how old are you? If you don't, you don't have to tell our age, but you're 25.
I'm 25.
You're young enough where it's still okay. All right.
Yes.
So first of all, thank you. Thank you for taking up this cause, which some people may say is not your own, being so young. So I want to thank you for recognizing that. I want to go back a little further. Your upbringing, because people don't just wake up that, what was it, in your upbringing that made those things stick out to you?
I think being biracial allows me, I always say, to take on a kind of disguise in that I have a duplicity in my nature that I can conceal parts of myself and code switch just like the best of them. And assimilate into places, not just for safety, but for conformity, for my own purposes. And it took a while of learning that was a privilege in and of itself, that I can do that I can hide in my Black skin, in this kind of skin, that my sisters and my father do not have this privilege of not passing or not appearing as other. For me, I learned that was a weapon. And I could use it for my own benefit, but really for the benefit of others, and being a megaphone for issues that I saw in my community that had been long talked about, but had been largely ignored by people in power. There's a reason it's myself talking about repeal of the Heritage Act, and unfortunately, and not a Black woman, because Black women and Black men have been ignored when talking about removing legislation and removing pillars of supremacy and racism in our state. This is not the first time someone has picked up the mantle and led the way for this to be repealed. But unfortunately, this is the power that I have in my skin, and I'm going to try and use it to the best of my ability. Now, when it awoke in me, I couldn't even really say, because I think there's been instances just throughout my life where I realized I was other, and realized also that although I was other, I had benefits in society that my father did not have. For instance, I saw a glimpse into the brutality of police violence in New York City with my own father being stopped and frisked in front of me, thinking he had taken me, a white appearing child, and kidnapped me. And that was not only traumatizing, that was a radicalizing experience now when I look at it, because I realized, like, that was policy that was put into place to be overbearing and be a punishing authority onto Black bodies. Just like the Heritage Act is, and just like these statues are literal symbols of supremacy and the white gaze looking onto you and asserting its dominance onto the whole public landscape.
Mm. Wow. Yes. So well said. As you can tell, she's a grad student. So let's talk about that, because the way you speak is obvious. It's obvious that you're very highly educated. Not like like you're so articulate, but no, like you really do express these things in a very specific and targeted way. So I know that your undergrad. So your undergrad was in what, secondary education, correct? We talked before.
Yeah, it was in secondary ed and history, actually. So I studied a lot of African American history, and I focused in my senior and junior year on South Carolina history and civil rights history, which is really my bread and butter and what I love talking about, what I love teaching the most and learning the most about. But also is the era where we start to see these statues creep up into our spaces, especially here in South Carolina.
Reconstruction, right?
Yes. Yeah. we start to see it. We start to see these statues put up in the 50s and 60s, right when Black people are gaining the right to vote or feeling like they have the semblance of power to go and march in the streets, right?
Yeah.
Like, how dare you do this? Let's put up a statue of Calhoun over the city of Charleston to remind you we are always watching you.
We're always watching. And let's
position them near places where you usually worship or you vote to remind you that no matter what, you are not safe.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about, one of the main pieces that people always talk about when we talk about the Heritage Act.
Can
the
you
Confederate
say that
flag.
one more time for me? I'm sorry, you went out.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Do it one more time.
Can you hear me now?
There we go.
All right, good. Sorry. So let's talk about one big piece that people always seem to talk about when we talk about, the Heritage Act, the Confederate flag. Some people are under the understanding that the Confederate flag has always flown over the state of South Carolina. Can you talk about the circumstances surrounding which the Confederate flag was placed on our state capitals and why did it stay?
So I really, I think I'm out of my depth in saying why it was put up. I could tell you that no matter what, a symbol of Confederacy being put up goes back to the root of this complete myth of a lost cause and really an assertion of supremacy back onto the South and just the United States as a whole. When it comes to symbols like the flag or, especially just the flag, we all recognize it. If you are from South Carolina, you know it all too well. You've probably seen it in parking lots at your own school. It is a symbol of, unfortunately, of heritage to so many. They see this as a symbol of heritage when really it's not. It's hiding in racism, and it's hiding into this false narrative that these men died valiantly for a cause that was true to American ideals.
Right.
When really they were traitors. They were going against America as a country. They had written an entirely different document against the Constitution. And for anyone who says that the Confederacy was not about slavery is lying to themselves or severely misinformed. Because if you look at our state's own secession papers, our state who started it all, we explicitly state that our right to enslave is being infringed upon. And that is why we are declaring secession, which caused a full pattern of all the other states. So when we talk about the Confederacy and why we might want to put a symbol of it up, it's miseducation. Yeah. But it's also, I think, sometimes unintentional, because so many of us really have been failed by this education system and lied to our whole lives about the abilities of a Black citizen in South Carolina and in America, and the the devastation and cruelty of enslavement and the Confederacy and everything that happened afterwards.
Right.
We've lied to ourselves and to our children.
Yeah.
To where it's okay to put these symbols up.
Right.
So they took it down in 2000, but
Mhm.
that was a complete compromise because they created the Heritage Act to be able to take the Confederate flag down.
Right. Correct. So, and I asked that question because I wasn't sure if you knew the answer, but I want to make sure I do talk about that one thing. So the Confederate flag was put back. The Confederate flag was flown in 1962 to commemorate the 100-year anniversary of the Confederacy. It was only supposed to stay up for a year.
Yep.
But they just never took it down until the year 2000.
Why would they?
Right. But like you said, concurrently, what's going on in 1962 when that's happening? Oh, the upstart of the civil rights movement. And it just stayed up there as a symbol. And that's why, you know, it's important that people always understand the origins of why these things are happening. When you talk about those, you know, those when you start talking about when you talk about things like those statues that went up, like the John C. Calhoun statue, which came down this year, that statue was put up right after Reconstruction when the states were asserting their dominance over black people when they decided, okay, we're going to start taking some power back. And that was definitely that's when you start seeing the rise of the KKK. The movie Birth of the Nation is played on the White House grounds. You start seeing things like this happen. I'm a history nut too, so trust me, I can do this. I love this.
This is great.
It's really important that people understand, though, that one, the Confederate flag did not always fly over the state capitol. Two, these statues that were put up in times where white supremacists were trying to assert their dominance over non-white people in our country, saying this is our country, which is why you hear people say things like, "You will not replace us," or you know the other slogans that go around. But also, sorry, and also the why the Confederate flag went up and why it was so important that something be said in regards to those things. Now, back to the Heritage Act. So just because some people may have just jumped on, what does the Heritage Act say about these statues and about these flags that are up that people may disagree with?
So it explicitly protects the monuments of the Confederacy and segregation period, requiring that if any local entity, from your local elementary school to the University of South Carolina, Mill to the city of Charleston, if they would want to make any changes to a public building name, public monument, or public statue, it has to be approved by 2/3 of our state house, which is an absolute governmental overreach, which was approved by a majority Republican legislature, which is outrageous in and of itself because Republicans at the root of it are about local control and self-governance.
Yeah.
So communities have now been stripped of their autonomy and their decision-making power as to what is appropriate in their spaces. So I'm from Fort Mill, South Carolina. We have a monument that is, it's despicable, and it's called the Faithful Slave. Wow. And it honors the false tale of loyal enslaved persons, who stayed by the side of white women and white families while their men fought valiantly in the Confederate War. Absolutely a lie. And in an increasingly diverse town, an increasingly diverse state, it represents a false narrative that was literally pushed on by white citizens, put up in the 60s by the Daughters of the Confederacy.
Of course they showed up.
Who fund almost all of these statues, really, across not just our state, but all over the place, all over the South.
Yeah.
So my town had done many protests about this monument. I'm sorry if you hear my doggy.
Oh no, your dog is
barking.
fine. Your dog is welcome on Real Talk for John. We're animal friendly.
Okay. So my town has done a lot of protesting and a lot of petition signing to remove this monument. But again, this piece of legislation, this flimsily written piece of legislation, is preventing them from being able to actually remove it and not destroy it. Like I'm not saying let's just take them all down and knock them down into rubble. Maybe like personally I would want to do that. But as a professional, as someone who knows that local entities should have the power to do whatever they want with these statues, we have the museums created to put these in. We have the ability to move them into spaces that are appropriate, that are not in the public eye, where you are subjected to seeing them no matter what. Like, I should be able to go to my state house or my hometown and enjoy my public park or my public grounds and not have statues that commemorate oppressive moments in our history and really truly violent people.
Yeah. So what kind of support do you guys have in the legislature to get this bill removed? Because I want to go to one of the comments. Elvin Spates, thank you for watching, sir. Says, how do you get Republicans on board? The Democrats have presented this bill before and never gets any Republican support. So what kind of support does this bill have in the legislature?
So we have 61 out of the 88 votes that are needed to actually enact the repeal and have the majority of the state house. And believe it or not, we actually have some Republicans who are on board, past Republicans and present ones that are in our current state house. As you know, and I'm sure as everyone that is watching knows, we took quite a beating in our state house after the election and lost several key seats, not just for repeal, but just for the Democratic agenda in general. But for winning over Republicans into this cause, I love to beat on the drum of local autonomy. I know that racism is unfortunately like such a trigger word to people on the right, to where the second you want to talk about real issues, they may want to just turn off completely. Well, one real issue is still the fact that communities want to make progress in their own right. And why is it that representatives from Horry County have anything to say about what Greenville wants to do and on the public school level? Or why should York County representatives have a say in the name change of 4 Lee County public schools? Like, that's something that's actually happening right now, where we have a county who's disregarding this Heritage Act and going to name these schools anyway. It's governmental overreach by far and a waste of our taxpayer money. Like, there should be no reason that the State House even listens to this kind of case where USC commits to the renaming of Sims or Clemson renames Calhoun. We have way bigger fish to fry in our State House than dealing with really small instances of monuments or building changes. Like, communities should be able to make up those decisions. Let the big guys in the big house actually worry on the other issues. We have COVID going on. We have policing issues. We have teacher strikes. The last thing that they have to be dealing with is really this flimsy, unconstitutional legislation, which was called unconstitutional by a Republican attorney general and our governor's own attorney general, mind you, to where this is a waste of our time. The lawsuit is a waste of our time.
So the suggestion of repeal the Heritage Act is that it just not be a state level decision. and that it be able to be handled by local legislatures. Not,
Exactly.
and that's what the Heritage Act does, is it pulls it up to the state level, and y'all don't want it at a state level, you want it at a local level. So the repeal the Heritage Act they're not saying take all the statues down.
Exactly.
They're
I'm not saying
let
take all your statues down. Let the communities actually make the decision for if they do want that kind of progress.
Yeah.
Say, for instance, like the town of Edgefield, hometown of Strom Thurmond.
Shout out to Strom Thurmond,
right? They don't, I'm sure they don't want to change Strom Thurmond High School, Strom Thurmond Highway, Strom Thurmond Supermarket, and everything else I'm sure they've got named after him. But why should they have any say in if USC wants to change Strom Thurmond Wellness Fitness Center?
Right.
You know, like these things are not on the same level. These things are different entities, and just they just should not be protected by this law.
I want to pause right there because I just saw a comment come through. Thank you, Miss Sandy Tecklenburg. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for always supporting. She's the wife of Mayor John Tecklenburg. I don't know how I forgot his name. Mayor John Tecklenburg of Charleston, South Carolina, who just voted. You know, the council voted to take down the John C. Calhoun statue, which was in Marion Square, which they had the ability to do because it wasn't on public property. I believe
that was the catch.
That was the catch. And the mayor's watching also. Thank you so much for watching, Mayor Tecklenburg. I still got to get that interview.
Oh my gosh, hi.
But so I wanted to use that as an example of, yes, please. I'll connect y'all. I want to use that as an example of, you know, what can happen when individual municipalities have the opportunity to make the decision for themselves. Because the school, the county board, the city board also could have said, city council could also have said, this is not something we want to do, and kept the statue up. That would have been completely the decision of the city. And repeal the Heritage Act, to my understanding, is that's what they're saying, is each city should be able to decide. So I want to thank you for clearing that up for me. I want you to talk a little bit about the things that you're doing in addition to the repeal of the Heritage Act, because you also have some roles inside your city that you're working on as well. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm working on the Commission for the Future of Columbia, which is a role I'm really excited about. I'm still in its beginning phases as we start this new endeavor. But my first phase is with a work group for equity and inclusion in our city, which are, of course, two buzzwords I'm sure we've all been hearing quite a bit about. But that our city and my mayor, Mayor Benjamin, has really committed to in words and in action. So we've created a survey that we are now distributing to residents and hopefully getting tons of feedback back about the current state of our community, how safe you feel, how accessible our community really is for its residents. And really intentionally reaching out to communities who have been marginalized and disregarded in policy and in just attitude in our city and in South Carolina. So that's the first phase really of what I'm doing with over there at the commission, and hopefully keep on tuning in and seeing where I go with that, because it's not just myself, but so many people who are so committed to bettering this city and really making it one where we do have this strong identity for the young generations that come into the city and really have so much promise to give.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also I go to school.
And what's your major in for grad school?
So my master's will be in secondary education. I will hopefully then just be going on to a PhD later on in life. I want to write educational policy and reform our entire state's education system, because it's got to go.
I love it. And I love the fact that you're an educator who's this active, especially at a time where, you know, we talk about teacher shortages, that we had the teacher strike. I think was the teacher strike last year or the year before?
Last year, and we currently have small scale strikes happening in my area regarding in-person classes and the rejection of going hybrid and what that looks like.
Yeah, I definitely I have I've gotten like getting to know you in this little bit of time that we've been able to like. There's a lot of like connectivities between us with like in regards of being a teacher, being in the work, serving the larger community in ways that we do. I want to talk to you a little bit because we still got time, and I want to make sure that I get to this as well. What have you? How have you been dealing with life in the classroom after COVID? Well, during COVID, 'cause we're not after COVID yet.
I've been managing. So as someone who is still like really a beginner, I think right now this is really making me appreciate the profession in a way that like a regular intern experience may not have. Teaching hybrid is so difficult.
Yeah.
You're truly teaching 2 classes at once. I have felt exhausted on days and really questioned like my ability as a teacher and like my ability to actually like serve my students well thought lessons and be enthusiastic and be excited to talk about economics or history when I'm beaten down or like have just been served like awful news about our elections and then have to come back in the next day and teach. These things like beat me down. Yeah, another teacher.
Yeah, we're very deep in teachers. We have a lot of teachers and education professionals who watch the show. So I want to make sure.
I think it's so important for students to see like teachers are so much more than just your teacher. Like I'm your advocate in and outside of the classroom. And for me, that means I'm advocating to remove structures that like really block my students from their potential.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you're teaching hybrid, how do you manage that time where you do have like, how do you manage even like differentiation, for example, when you have, 2 sets of students, like one on the virtual, one in the classroom? Is there a way to manage differentiation that is effective, or do you just like wing it and do the best you can?
I really just do the best I can. Perks of having awesome coaching teachers who are by your side. They really they know what's best for their students in ways that I really don't. And that ways that I'm really getting used to still. I was at a point where I was looking at a webcam, looking at students, looking at a smartboard, and teaching, 3 different audiences really, and being observed for a grade.
Wow.
And the intimidation of being the best for your students, really, I just gave up on that in a way because I said, like, students deserve to see you struggling too and see you as a human.
Yeah.
Like, your authority does not come from you doing everything perfect.
Yeah.
Or come from you knowing every single thing. Like, I am not one to shy away from saying I don't know the answer because I will always go and like seek out the answer and then come back and tell you. But really, like, once I gave up on being perfect and once I actually just said, guys, the tech is just beating me down today. Like, we're going to do an easy activity and just like get through the day together.
Right.
I mean, students understand that and they need that too.
Yeah.
As much as I need grace, as much as teachers need a moment to pause, our students do too, especially when they're teenagers and really like taking in so much of our world's anxieties and feel helpless. Like, so many of them feel like they do not have a say or any ability to change things. And that's what half of this work really is like showing them like, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25, you can get this degree, you can go and like do something with it that you didn't think you'd even do at in your freshman year at all. Yeah. And do change that directly helps your community. because I've like been the student that does not see the use in learning or does not see the use in like trying in school.
Yeah.
And now I'm the teacher that will always want you to try, because I want you to know that you can actually do something outside of this classroom that's useful and purposeful.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. And I want, as a teacher, well, a former teacher, I actually left the classroom in June of 2019. But as a former teacher, I can tell you that you're absolutely right, that students do take value in seeing that their teacher is real and that their teacher does go through things. Because, I mean, I've seen people come through and try to like smile their way through the day and end up in the bathroom like balled up in tears. So being willing to show your students that, hey, yeah, I'm going through this too. You're not alone. I'm also struggling. I'm also having problems with this COVID stuff. It's not easy for me either. They sort of get it. You know, they get it because you get to build those relationships. I want to ask you this though, because this is an important question. You're 25.
Yeah.
And you teach high school.
Yes.
How do you manage the respect piece there? Because I can imagine students thinking, "Oh, she's sort of my age, so we're just alike." And how do you manage that?
You know, the very first day of student teaching last year, someone thought I was a student themselves, and as mortified as I was in that moment, I always remember like this is the face that I've been gifted with, truly like this youthful look. Yeah. And being able to kind of pass as much younger than 25, which helps in some aspects, but usually not.
Right. Especially in the front of a classroom.
Especially when you're trying to teach and like say, I have all these degrees and I know everything else. Yeah. And it's about my teacher voice that I have mastered in this lovely COVID year, and being able to demand their attention in other ways, not just with like, hey, listen up, but like being physically present with them, understanding them, getting to know them as people, I think also lets them get to know me. Like for me, I like to wear cool shoes with my students so they can see like, see, Miss McCrae, you know, I know a little bit about what's going on. I know those TikTok dances that you're doing. I'm on TikTok too. Like, and having that relatability it never crosses the line of authority and friendship. Like they still call me Miss McCrae. They still are asking me questions at the end of the lesson or raising their hand. I have been lucky in that I've never had to do classroom management like any issues or any discipline, because I've been able to show students like we're here to learn. Okay. But like we're gonna have fun doing it. I'm gonna be cool about it. But if you do all of a sudden like not come correct, like I'm not afraid to turn the teacher voice on and really like up the game a minute.
I love that.
To make sure that you know like you need to chill.
I love that. We got some teacher tips from Dustin Rhodes. He said, my favorite phrase is "Don't test my gangster." So you can tell.
I'm actually going to take that.
You can use that. Now he also gives another suggestion, but I don't suggest this one for you. He says he tells his students they can meet in the parking lot and square up if they have an issue. You can catch these hands. Don't tell your students you can catch these hands. Don't do that.
Some of these students, I mean, I'm 5'10", but some of them, I don't know what they're on, but they're like 6'5". I do not want to.
Well, see, Dustin's an MMA fighter. Like literally, he trains in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So he sort of can do that, but I still wouldn't suggest that. And he's in Baltimore, so it's a whole nother. So
he's got a flight he'd have to catch, you know.
Like I don't want to bring him out. I have to rescue him from that one. But for sure, like I want to congratulate you on that. You know, being 25 and to be so inspirational and aspirational to so many people, working with the Repeal of the Heritage Act. You know, being a teacher in the classroom while also working on your grad degree. Like, what do you do for fun?
Um, you know, I was just thinking to myself,
Read
like,
books.
I have not taken a break since 2020 started. So for fun, I like to play video games if I have
Ooh,
time.
okay. All right.
I'm not a gamer by any means.
What do you play? What do you play?
I play Animal Crossing.
Oh, that's not a video
That's a
game.
video game.
Ah,
I
my daughter has
love playing Animal Crossing and like micromanaging and like having my own island and doing all of that. But I also love Super Smash Brothers and what's the other one? Oh, Mario Kart. I love going online and like being beaten down by people from different countries and just being completely humbled in my ability to play any video games. I love playing with my dogs. That's really like my hobby, but I haven't stopped working to where I've been like able to like properly answer that. And thankfully I have this winter break like that starts tomorrow where I'll be twiddling my thumbs wondering what to do like for the next 3.5 weeks. So
So
I'll figure something out.
Can I give you a small piece of advice?
Yes.
Take time for yourself.
I know. I need to always remind myself to like
you're 25.
Myself, yeah.
You're 25. Be 25. Because one day you're gonna wake up and you're gonna be like, oh dip, I'm 39. What have I done for me? Right? So take that time, you know, like do the work. Be inspirational, be aspirational, you know, change the world, but also make sure that you're making time for Jazmyne so that Jazmyne can still, you know, enjoy this thing called life, because all work and no play will make you very frustrated with the world. So even if it's just playing your Animal Crossing game, and Animal Crossing game, and playing with your dogs, like do it, man. Like enjoy it. Enjoy being young. You're only young once. Once you're not young anymore, you're not young anymore. I'm 38 now. I'll be 39 next week. And like, I'll never be 25 again. So, you know, just please make sure that you are, you know, taking time for yourself. Do spa days, like self-care.
I do a little bit of that.
Self-care. All right. That's my only advice for you, because you are inspiring me and you're encouraging me. And, you know, I'm going to make sure my daughters watch this video as well, because I'm sure they'll be inspired by you as well. Let's go back to the Heritage Act as we close, because I want to make sure we end on that. If people want to support the Heritage Act, not support the Heritage Act, repeal the Heritage Act, or support repeal the Heritage Act, how can they get more information from you guys?
So you can first follow us on social media, and we're at Repeal for SC on Twitter and at Repeal the Heritage Act on Instagram and Facebook. So that's always what I first say, because we post any newsworthy headlines or anything, new updates and stuff like that right away on our social media, especially for our Instagram. Next, you could also go and sign our petitions, as well as other community petitions that are across our state, from Anderson and Greenville to Fort Mill to USC and Charleston. You can go to repealtheheritageact.org and click sign all, and like there's a little tab and actually sign petitions. There actually on our website is a legislator contact toolkit where you can actually get into our database that shows you what legislators are currently supporting or currently not supporting the work of the repeal, and contact the ones that are in your area so that you are able to have the language that you need to actually tell them that you want this Heritage Act removed, and also B, have the most up-to-date info for contacting them, so you can call them, email them, write them a letter, or all above.
Awesome.
And then next is telling a friend about it and looking into your own history. Stop ignoring statues on your park spaces and thinking that they're about good people, because I thought that J. Marion Sims was about a incredible woman who was honored with this awesome building, and it turns out it was a man who did incredible harm to Black bodies for decades.
Yeah.
So I think it's our responsibility to be knowledgeable and be informed on what is in our spaces and what is in our communities. And if it's not something that you believe aligns with your values or with your city's values or your school's values, like holding the people accountable to remove that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Where does Jazmyne McCrae see herself in 10 years?
Ooh, in 10 years, I'll be 35.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. You know, I never really have thought about like the future in that way to like get kind of deep for a moment. I have always had depression since I was quite young, like 15 is when I really can pinpoint when just something inside of me changed. To where it's been tough for me to think that long ahead for so long that now in the last couple of years of my life, I've overcome these mental struggles and have been able to really like take my mental health in my own hands and take care of myself. But I forget like to start planning ahead, if that makes sense. So I always am like, I want to get my PhD, like, and that is something I see myself doing, but in 10 years, I see myself like making strides in our education system and making it an equitable system, and like still see myself teaching and still see myself organizing and protesting some other kind of legislation, because the Heritage Act been repealed in 10 years. Like that bridge has been crossed, right? So, but I couldn't tell you like all the other details.
No, I think that's a lot. I think that's good. Another tidbit, small. Set some, just throw some goals out there. Like, think to yourself, if in like, you know, in a perfect world, these things happen, and you'll be amazed by writing those things down, how much closer you will be to the like throw out, like if let's say pie in the sky. If you said, if everything goes perfect for me, I'll be the president of the United States in 25 years. Put it out there, because who knows? You know, who knows? Like, anything's possible. And I also want to speak to the depression piece that you spoke about, because I want to thank you for being open and honest about that, because
I just lost you.
You can't hear me?
I just lost you.
All right, hold 1 second. Hey, y'all, please make sure you're off the internet. Can you hear me? You can't hear me?
There we go.
All right. Sorry. Hold 1 second. All right. Yeah. So I wanted to say, first of all, thank you. You can't hear me? You can't hear me?
I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. Can you hear me?
There we go.
You can hear me. Okay, cool. So I wanted to thank you for being.
Oh, love, you going in and out again.
Oh my gosh. Oh, 1 second. 1 second. I'm sorry, y'all.
It's okay.
Sorry, y'all, for watching. Thank y'all for sticking with me. I don't know what's going on technically right now. If you can't hear me, I can hear me. Let's do this. 1 second.
Me now?
Yes.
You can hear me now? All right.
Yes.
Maybe it's all right. Cool. So what I was going to say was that, first of all, I wanted to thank you for being, open about, your struggles with depression, because, especially now, in the Black community, we're trying to open our minds to talking about mental health more openly and more willingly, without, without the bad feelings that come with, seeking therapy and things of that nature. I want to thank you so much for being willing to do that. It's not easy, but I do want to tell you this, that, I don't know how religious you are. I'm a spiritual person. I go to church and everything, but the devil knows who to attack, because he knows who has the most power. And when you have power, you tend to get more attacks than people who don't. All right. And you at 25 are a very, very, very powerful young lady. I can see it. I can see it on you. I can feel it in your speech. I can feel it in your aura. So I want to encourage you to continue to embrace the greatness that is within you, because you are going to do some great things. In 10 years, I will be shocked if I don't see your name on somebody's ballot somewhere. So I'm looking for it. I'm looking for it. I'm looking for you to hear great things from you. And if you ever need a word of encouragement, you ever need, that extra pump up, reach out to me, and I'm here for it. I'm here for you. And please stay in touch with the show, no matter what's going on. Let me know what's going on. Let's stay up to date, and let's find out what's going on with Jazmyne McCrae, which will soon be Dr. Jazmyne McCrae once you finish your PhD.
Yes, one day.
But maybe superintendents out there for you. I think elected offices are there for you. I think governor is not out the realm of possibility. I can see a lot of things for you. I can see a lot of things. Just being honest, and people who watch my show can tell you I don't gas people up. Like I really do see it, and I feel it in just your energy. So I want to thank you for that. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Thank
you. Anything that you wanted to say before we close?
Really, we're big history nerds. So just look into your local public history and get the ball rolling for repealing the Heritage Act work in your own community, because this is about every town having the possibility to make a better, more inclusive space for all of them. From North Augusta's Meriwether Monument, which appreciates a bogus claim of white heroism, to Strom Thurmond on USC's campus, overshadowing the legacy of Black communities in Columbia. We all, I think, have a part: white, Black, brown, Indigenous, Asian, Hispanic. If you are in Columbia, if you are in Charleston, if you are in Greenville, or any small town in between, we have a responsibility to hold our politicians accountable, but also hold ourselves accountable and ask ourselves, are these symbols of hate acceptable as I walk through these spaces? Do I want these symbols and pillars of racism and supremacy and oppression to continue to exist in my lifetime, in my grandchild's lifetime? Because the answer is most likely no. The answer to most likely half of the statues you see are going to make you sick and going to make you want to physically remove them. And make you want to call someone and tell them to act. But that first takes you taking that first step and being informed. Absolutely. So act on your own knowledge.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for being on today. Tonight, it's been really great getting to know you and speak to you, and find out more about the work that you're doing with the Repeal the Heritage Act. Again, let's give that website out. www.repealtheheritageact.org.
Yes, .org. Repealtheheritageact.org. You can also catch us on Instagram and Twitter. You'll also find me there as well.
All right. If they want to follow you on Instagram or Twitter or anything, how to do that? If you want them to. If not, then say don't.
Jazmyne Olivia on Instagram.
All right. And as I always tell people, don't be weirdos.
Please don't.
Don't be weirdos. Nobody likes a weirdo. Thank you so much for coming on, Jazz. I really appreciate it. This has been a blast. I've really, really, really enjoyed this. I've enjoyed this conversation. I've enjoyed getting to know you. And like I told you, like I said, if there's ever anything I can do to help or support your work, then please don't hesitate to reach out, because that's what we do here on Real Talk.
And vice versa, please let me amplify any causes. Like I told you off cam, like I'm a megaphone for causes like that I'm passionate about.
Yeah. And Zelnab Kashki says, love you, Jasmine.
I love you too, Zany.
So she's here for it. And did I pronounce it correctly? Zeneb?
It's Zany. She has a funky name.
Oh, Zany. All right, Zany. Well, thank you for watching, Zany. Hopefully you watch again soon in the future. And with that being said, I am going to wrap this show. Thank you, everybody, for watching this week. I'm not gonna turn my music on because for some reason my speakers are not, my sound is not working correctly on that one, so I'm using the live mic. So thank you, everybody, for watching this week. Remember that Real Talk with Rajon, it happens once a week. We have our local celebrity spotlight. We bring on great people like Miss Jazmyne, who's doing great things with the Repeal the Heritage Act. Please go to the website, www.repealtheheritageact.org, to find out more information and to sign the petitions. I see several people have said that they've actually signed a petition during the show. So that's great news.
Thank you.
If you would like to find out more about my show, Real Talk with Rajon, please follow me on social media. I'm everywhere: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, wherever people are on the internet. Also my website, www.realtalkwithrajon.com. Please follow and subscribe to my channel on YouTube. I do need more YouTube followers, so if you can help me loudspeaker that'd be great. If you are looking for somebody to speak at your event or your conference that you're having virtually, please reach out to me. I do that as well. I'd love to come out and support what you're doing. If you are doing something in the community that you would like a light shined on, please reach out to me on my email address. That's go to my website, www.realtalkwithrajon.com, and you can fill out the link right there on the website. I think that's all I got. So I'll close by saying, God is everything, and without him, we are nothing. So never forget where your help comes from. And if a man doesn't stand for something, he is bound to fall for anything. Now that is real talk. I will see y'all next Wednesday where my guest will be Grammy Award winning lead singer of the group Ranky Tanky, Miss Kiana Q Parler. She's a singer. She was on American Idol, and now she's got a Grammy, and she's from the Chuck. So she's coming on. I'm excited about talking to her. And I want to see you all next week. So tune in for that. Hopefully my music will work. I'm gonna try this because I like to have my music when I do stuff. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna put that music back. Peace. Wrong one.